Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be, Was I the Rebound Guy? I've got an email from a dude who he's in his mid-20s, very successful, makes almost six figures a year. He's got his own place, got a nice car, works out 6 days a week, and he's relatively new to my work. He's only been following for about 3 weeks. I think he's been through 3% Man. He says, I think one time so far. And so recently he started hanging out with a girl that he knew from college that he always liked, but they were each, she had a boyfriend at the time, he had a girlfriend at the time through college. And so he hadn't talked to her in like 6 months. Then she got in touch with him and wanted to hang out. And then he later figured out that she had just broken up with her boyfriend around that time. They started hanging out, having fun, hooking up. And then she dipped on out, and he saw some pictures with her and her ex. So it's obvious that it looks like they are getting back together. Now he's like, was I just a rebound guy? Because he obviously has interest in her, and you could tell he tends to downplay a little bit, which you'll kind of see in the beginning. But it's obviously he really likes the girl. And so he started seeing her and he wanted more. And then so she called things off, tried to friend zone him. He's like, I don't want that. Now he's like, what are the chances she's going to come back? Or was I just a rebound guy? Was I just a plaything for her? So let's go through his email. He says, hey, Corey, I just discovered your videos 3 weeks ago. I listened to your ebook, 3% Man, while I wait for my physical copy to come in. Prior to watching your videos, I'd say I had an above average understanding of relationships through reading books and watching different creators in the past. I'm a guy in my mid-20s that has been all over in terms of success with women. I'm tall, on pace to earn $100,000 this year, have my own place and car, and I actively train at the gym 6 days a week. I'm often told I'm a major catch, but I know my mindset cripples me. What's so interesting is that human beings, people, we're going to act consistently with how we view ourselves to be. And it doesn't matter whether that view is accurate or not. And for most of us, just because of life, society, our upbringing, we've adopted mindsets and belief systems about ourselves that are limiting. And when we perceive ourselves as being limited in some way or many ways, we're going to act and do and say things in ways that are consistent with the self-perception. And with the number one most important thing that women find attractive in men being confidence, if you don't perceive yourself in a good light, whether you realize it or not, your vibe, your demeanor, the tone of your voice is going to communicate that that's how you feel about yourself to the women that you're hoping to date. And they're going to pick up on it. So he says, a girl I know from college recently reached out to me looking to hang out. We were friends for 3 years, but she never showed interest, and we were both in relationships. She texted me randomly after 6 months of not talking to hang out, mainly talking about work, seeing as we are in the same field. We went for coffee 2 or 3 times, during which I never thought anything of it, as she was not my typical type. She ended up asking me to go bowling with her, which we did that following week, and I never made a move. I thought about it for a few days and decided I wanted to try things with her. After all, what did I have to lose? I asked her out. It just kind of also, the thing that brings up is that questions always asked, can men and women be friends? And obviously these two were friends, but neither one of them was available in the past because they were both in relationships with other people. So there was obviously some kind of interest on both their parts that whole time, but neither one of them was available. I asked her out to drinks the next time I saw her in person, and she happily accepted, even confirming it with me several times prior to the date. Well, that shows, or at least when you look at that, that would show that's a high level of interest. She obviously digs the guy, and he's not some stranger. He's known her for several years. She showed me next to no interest, but we had a great time together, which ended in her throwing herself at me and us making out 30 minutes while we waited for an Uber back to my place. So you notice how he never tried to make a move, never did anything. He's not really seeing any kind of indicators of interest, and he's just hanging out. And what happens? She can't take it anymore and throws herself at him. She ended up sleeping over. It felt unreal finally getting with this girl after having my eye on her for so long. So it's not that he was just interested in something platonic. There was obviously a connection there and an attraction, but neither one of them could act on it because they were in relationships with other people. I asked her out a few days later to a steak dinner over a phone call, which she happily accepted. I told her what I wanted her to wear, and she ended up going out to buy exactly what I asked her to wear. All seems like good signs so far. We had an amazing time, which ended in her coming to my place for sex. Ooh. Guess you're now no longer just friends, you're friends with some benefits. So congratulations. We agreed to hang out the next day to finish the movie we missed during our hookup. Well, obviously, gotta finish watching the movie, of course. She came over the next day. We watched the movie together and didn't have sex as she said she was a bit sore from last night. We went for several rounds. It's possible she was sore, but it's also possible something else was going on. Towards the end of the night, she asked me to go out on a date in the city with her the following week. So you notice the one thing that kind of jumps out at me is this: is she's really aggressive, really trying to spend time with him, really making an effort. And obviously knowing what I already know because I read the email, she's recently broken up with her boyfriend. And on some level, she's trying to replace that intimacy with this particular guy that she already has a high level of comfort for. But as I talk about in 3% Man, what typically happens is you get involved with somebody that's in the middle of a divorce, or in this case, she's had a recent breakup. Emotions are going to be all over the place. She's going to be hot and cold. The ex could more than likely be in the background because the reality is both men and women, the longer after they've split up and they get back in the dating world and they see what reality is and how hard it is to find somebody you really click with, it's understandable that especially when it doesn't happen within 2-3 months, that the other person wants to come back or tries to come back. He says, that was Wednesday night, and she texted me on the Sunday night calling things off with me. She said she has strong feelings for me, finds me attractive, and saw us developing into a couple, but she can't see me as more than a friend. So what does that mean? So it's interesting. She talks about us developing into a couple, but what do we have to have? She's got to be ready, willing, able, and open to having a relationship. It's also possible because he's new to my work, didn't know these things. Maybe he was a little overeager. Maybe he was a little too nice. I don't really know what he was saying and doing when they were together because he doesn't say. But if you look at her actions seem like somebody that's really super interested. And they go from really super interested to, let's just not go out and let's just go back to being friends. So how do we handle that when we're not interested in going back into friend zone? And why would she want to put him in friend zone? She's basically saying, hey, time out. I want you to be my backup plan. That's typically what's happening. He says, I called her and calmly told her that I respect her decision, but told her we can't go back to just being friends, which she got pretty upset about, but understood. Strongest negotiating position is being able to walk away and mean it. It's like after all this, he's liked her, she's liked him, they hooked up, now she wants to only go back to being friends. Which means, if he was to agree to that he becomes the emotional tampon and therapist every time something goes sideways with the boyfriend. The best thing to do is to remove yourself from the situation because she's going to have a lot more years in or time in with the ex-boyfriend, and so she's more emotionally bonded to him than she is to you, even though you've known each other for 3 years. And so therefore, with the ex being in the background, every time he screws up or it looks like it's going sideways, who's she going to call? Obviously this guy, so she gets the attention and validation she's not getting from her boyfriend. And then meanwhile, he's going to want to try to see her and do things. And she's going, I can't. She's going to be making excuses. And so now his personal life will be on hold and in limbo while she vacillates back and forth between the ex and him. And that's why you just simply don't get involved in those situations. You want her to go, because if you love somebody, if you really truly care for somebody, you want them to be happy even if it's not with you. It's almost like you want to dare them to find somebody better. In other words, you want to interact with her in a certain way, and she's saying, no, I only want to interact with you in a platonic way. And as a man, you say, no, thank you. I'm interested in this way. And that's why he says, I'm not going to just be friends with you. That doesn't work for me. Go play with your boyfriend, your ex-boyfriend, see how that goes, give it another shot, wish guys all the best. Hopefully you live happily ever after and get the white picket fence and all those good things. But if it doesn't work out, give me a call, and if some cute girl hasn't scooped me up already, maybe I'll give you a shot. He says, I was extremely confused as we had great times together and she was all over me, and both in person and over text, initiating contact with me daily. I then discovered your videos, and I'm now realizing she may have gotten back together with her ex, as they had broken up about 6 weeks prior, which was roughly the time she reached out to me. There you go. You make those connections. Now it makes sense. Because she was obviously hurting. And she slid you right in there because she had a high level of comfort. Obviously, there was attraction between the two of you. But more than likely, when things go sideways like this, it's because the guy came back in the picture. He says, I also saw that she posted a photo on Saturday night at an event, and her ex was in the photo and commented on it. And there you go. That tells you everything you need to know. She's spending time with her ex. And if he's commenting on the photo, they're talking again. And again, because she's more emotionally bonded to him, he's got the leverage and you don't. You're in a position of weakness. That's why you just don't participate in that. It's the art of the deal, the art of negotiation. Prior to this, I had never seen his name pop up. I've been in no contact with her for the past 3 weeks, but I feel awful about this situation. Hey, it's nothing to feel awful about. You got to hook up with a girl that you'd always been into. And the reality is, if it didn't work out with the ex the first time or the 10th, however many times they've split up or things went sideways, it's probably not going to work out in the future. And guess who she's going to call when it doesn't work out? You. But that's why you've got to be clear that you're not going to hang out with her in a platonic way. It's romance, or call me if you change your mind. You just cannot, because what'll happen is, like, say something goes sideways with this guy in a few weeks, she calls you, hang out again, and then it starts to resolve itself with the other guy, and then you get pushed back into friend zone. And so you got to make sure you're always congruent. You're consistently congruent. You can't tell her no to the friend zone and then 2 weeks later hang out and be her therapist or her emotional tampon, because your words and your actions are different. They're not congruent. You're saying I'm not interested in something platonic, and then you hang out with her and do something platonic. He says, I'm happy I had the balls to finally show interest and sleep with my college crush. Obviously, she was more, because you notice how he kind of downplayed her, like, she wasn't really my type. Yeah, whatever. You always wanted her. But I hate how things ended abruptly. It's like, there's no reason to feel bad about that. It's like she just went back to her ex. And quite frankly, when you started hanging out with her again, you didn't know that. I'm bothered that she would use me like this for a week and destroy a 3-year friendship in the process. You don't miss the friendship, bro. You miss the cunnilingus. I know that was a feminine sentence, he writes. So this is what gives away his mindset. Remember, he talked about in the beginning how he knows his mindset cripples him. So let's read that statement again. Remember, and think about this. People are going to act consistently with how they view themselves to be. Doesn't matter whether the view is accurate or not. This guy has everything going for him. He's got a car. He's in great shape. He's tall. Women tell him he's a catch all the time. He's got his own play. I mean, he's got the world by the balls. But here's his mindset. I'm bothered that she would use me like this for a week and destroy a 3-year friendship. What does his mindset tell you about that statement? He doesn't think very highly of himself. He automatically assumes she was using him and that the interest wasn't authentic. I would say the interest was definitely authentic, but she's more emotionally bonded to the ex. And women make their decisions based upon their emotions. They're more emotional beings than us guys are. So you're in a weak position to leverage. And if I was a betting man in Las Vegas and I know she's talking to the ex and she's hanging out with you and having these great times, I'm putting my money on her going back to the ex. It's like, I don't even have to think about that. I know how that bet's going to turn out. But like I said, it's probably not going to work out with the guy in the long run. And that's why it's best to leave these situations, move on to dating other women, especially this guy because he's new to my work. He should be reading the book and applying with other women and getting experience because that will grow his confidence, get a little more, have a little more swagger. So he doesn't, it kind of starts to erase the mindset that would lead him to think and say, I'm bothered that she would use me like this. That's not the mindset of a confident guy. The confident guy would be like, hey, it was cool. I got to hang out with my college crush. Hey, I understand why she went back to her ex, but if you understand the book, then her going back to the ex is totally predictable and understandable. You have to see the situation as it is and play it properly. Because the thing you don't want to do is stay engaged with her, be the friend, and then that could go on for months and months. And you're just raking yourself over the coals emotionally. You've taken yourself out of the game. And plus, on top of that, she's going to lose respect for you because she knows you shouldn't be sitting around waiting in backup position. Because a man who loves and values himself ain't going to be nobody's backup. You're either going to be a priority to her or she can be in your rearview mirror and come running after you. Watching your videos has helped me understand my shortcomings in an area I thought I had mastered. Well, everything in life is about mindset. And you're young, dude. Got to give yourself a chance to fail and learn from it and get better. I understand I didn't give her time to miss me. I over-pursued her, see? And that her rekindling with her ex was out of my control. There you go. He admits he over-pursued. But like I said, it doesn't really matter. It was going to happen anyways. Especially with the ex coming back in the picture. So if you've told her you're not interested in being friends, the important thing is to be congruent with that, because more than likely she'll come back at some point. And if the other guy's still in the picture, she'll try to use the F word, the friend word, and just say, look, I'm not interested in that. I'd love to see you, but if you're still seeing your ex and you're not sure, I'd rather you go resolve that with him. And then once you're sure it's not going to work out, then get in touch with me. That's a hard thing to do when you really want somebody, but you must love in such a way that the person you love feels free. You got to love and value yourself first. And therefore, if you love and value yourself first, you're not going to interact with somebody and play second fiddle or be a chick's backup plan or her plaything or whatever. You got to be man enough to say, I'm not going to be involved with her in any way, shape, or form while she's still hanging out with the ex. But if she finally resolves it and that goes by the wayside and she's 100% certain they're never going to get back together again and it's completely over, then when that happens, then I would love to interact with her. It's hard to do, but that's part of exercising emotional self-control. It's the best way to handle a situation like that. Because then when she does come back, she's ready, willing, able, and open to something new with you. And then the ex is no longer going to interfere. And then you can start off and live happily ever after for the rest of your life, for a couple of months or a year or two, whatever it ends up happen to be. At least this way you get what you want. You don't give your power away. And then you act consistently congruent with a guy who loves and values himself and is not going to be a backup to anybody. So if you got a question or challenge and you'd like to get my help, go to understandingrelationships.com, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and book a coaching session with yours truly. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.